want to see this royal couple. Come on.
I always dreamt of writing about Marie Antoinette.
Qu'est-ce qui se passe une fois qu'elle a fermé la porte, Marie-Antoinette, de sa chambre?
Nous, on a proposé un code couleur par personnage.
Avec quelqu'un de formidable qui a fabriqué des châtelaines, des bijoux.
On est parti de quelques références de bateaux d'époque et de barges d'époque, effectivement, dont une de Marie-Antoinette.
C'est la première à vouloir créer son destin, imposer sa liberté, imposer sa personnalité.
It's funny. It's sexy.
It's history told from a woman's point of view.
Everything is fresh and bang and in your face. I expect you to obey me.
Is really about each character finding their place and finding their role.
I'm not ready to be a father.
As a woman, as a wife, as a queen, as a mother, as an icon, what have you done to me, Mama? And as a human being with needs.
Tout le monde dit, on connaît déjà. Ben regardez, vous ne connaissez pas cette histoire-là.
Welcome
To the behind the scenes
of Marie Antoinette.
To business.
En quelques chiffres, Marie-Antoinette, c'est 2 ans d'écriture.
C'est 3 mois de préparation.
Ça doit être autour de 700 pièces de costumes sorties de notre atelier.
C'est une quinzaine de décors répartis sur les 2 plateaux, des décors qui se modulent et qui se transforment.
C'est à peu près 5 mois de tournage, 5 mois et demi de tournage.
C'est 300 techniciens au total.
C'est une trentaine de comédiens.
C'est quand même 90 tenues de femmes et 75 tenues d'hommes.
C'est plus de 1000 figurants.
35 tenues différentes pour Marie-Antoinette. Une robe, c'est à peu près 120 heures de travail.
92 personnes au plus gros moment au décor.
C'est un budget de 27 millions d'euros.
Pour 8 épisodes de 52 minutes.
My God, Paris worships you.
Pourquoi Marie-Antoinette est fascinante? Pourquoi elle fascine autant de monde et dans le monde entier? C'est parce qu'elle meurt tragiquement, d'accord, ça oui, mais il doit y avoir autre chose. Et c'est en fait en rencontrant Deborah Davis qu'on a compris qu'il fallait faire quelque chose sur Marie-Antoinette, quelque chose de très différent.
I always dreamt of writing about Marie Antoinette because for me, she was the last queen of France and has the most famous reputation. No other French queen stands out really in the way that she does. So I wanted to travel with her and find out about her and research her and dramatize her. This was the greatest privilege for me. What struck me was how contemporary the relationship between the mother and the daughter was. The Austrians were way more modern. They have a really strong contemporary feel. They were much more interested in honesty and they were much more upfront. So when you read the Empress's letters, you will see straight away, or even Joseph's letters, that they were just much more like us. I don't think she as an icon will ever disappear. There is something about her that continues to attract us, to intrigue us, and that she suffered so much in the French Revolution. And I suspect there is guilt amongst the French people for what happened to her. But we as non-French people are obsessed with her beauty, her style, her celebrity.
She was privileged. She was an empress, and then she was the Queen of France, but she never asked for that. She never wanted this life. So if you take a closer look, you know, she was a lonely woman. She was longing for the love of her husband. She was longing for a role in life. And I see her as a somewhat also traumatized girl, but also as a modern and emancipated woman who always tried to preserve her intimacy and her freedoms.
Dans la saison 1, ce qu'on va apprendre, c'est tout le poids de la rumeur et aussi l'attaque sur sa sexualité. Oui, ça raconte comment elle va lutter contre l'étiquette qu'on lui impose. C'est comment cette femme a voulu s'émanciper dans un monde d'hommes.
For me, it's a tragic comedy. It's a family drama, yes, but it's a tragic comedy.
Tout se passe à l'intérieur de la famille, en fait. Ses adversaires principaux sont dans la famille.
Marie-Antoinette, elle se cogne à sa belle-sœur, elle se cogne à son mari, elle se cogne au Premier ministre, elle se cogne à tout le monde, alors qu'elle veut juste exister et s'affranchir des jalousies, des interdictions. C'est ça qui est assez intriguant et passionnant, c'est de replacer ça au sein vraiment des liens du sang de cette famille.
What the thesis is that the revolution started at the Versailles in the heart of the royal family because they hated her. We're trying to understand how Marie Antoinette negotiated her life at Versailles and how she met the challenges.
Well, I was a big fan of Deborah's because of The Favourite. I thought it was a remarkable film, and she's a remarkable writer. Everything is fresh and bang and in your face, and there are colloquialisms and vernacular that are used which are really going to drag the audience in. She's not frightened of using modern terms, of using the parts of the language that we might find surprising, shall we say, to be in the script.
At times, I think people can find that a bit surprising, but here it really works to demonstrate that some of the issues and the difficulties that Marie Antoinette or Louis or any of the other characters are going through, they're relatable to us today, and they're not just stuck in this time period.
The emotions seem raw. The world seems unimaginably cruel. And suddenly, everything you thought you know isn't there anymore. History from a female perspective is there, which we never normally see. And a darkness, an ability to get under the skin of the real world and show us something that feels very contemporary, because suddenly people are in a world where they don't control what's going on. That was what was fresh. That was what made me want to do it.
I think it's time we made our announcement.
Le casting était une grande entreprise, hein, parce qu'il nous fallait trouver des acteurs anglais, français, parce qu'on voulait vraiment qu'il y ait des acteurs anglais, français.
L'avantage de ce casting international, c'est qu'on a accès à des jeunes et qui ne sont pas encore complètement connus, malgré tout très expérimentés. Et donc ça crée une famille nouvelle, avec des nouveaux visages.
Extremely!
Dans le casting de Marie-Antoinette, on avait besoin d'une jeune femme juvénile, libre, évidemment très belle. Ce qui est assez étonnant, c'est que pour Louis et pour Emilia, on a eu une majorité immédiate sur cette incarnation à la fois de la royauté et en même temps de cette next-gen, comme
j'aime le dire.
Comme Claude aime le dire.
My brother has no idea what he's getting us into.
Le fait qu'Emilia Schuller soit allemande, c'est un pur hasard. Il y a quelque chose dans le regard qui est tout de suite frais, elle est quelque part très contemporaine. Et elle a cette part d'enfance qui est encore présente, qui est toujours là.
Being strong and vulnerable is really tricky. Really tricky to be cross at 1 minute and then to be scared the next. To be very, very forthright and then immediately wonder whether you've done the right thing. That ability to do that in the blink of an eye, that's what she could do. And she was just brave. She would go to places emotionally where lots of other people wouldn't be brave enough to go. She speaks the lines like she's just thought them. Every single moment is like it's just happened to her. There's no pretending. That's extraordinary. I've never met an actress like that before in my life.
We have a problem. This is Louis's bedchamber. As you can see, it has fallen off the schedule of works.
I'll deal with that.
Donc on a construit des décors à Brie-sur-Marne, des décors donc des studios.
The sets are exquisite, absolutely exquisite. And we had a big tour backstage, if you like, at Versailles before we started shooting.
I saw the apartments of Madame du Barry were still there, very close to the apartments of the king.
Welcome to my bedroom. The Queen's bedroom. And watch Marie Antoinette break a rule of Versailles. Oh, I haven't done it. Sorry. Do you see how high this bed is? It's almost my size. Like, there's no way I can get on that bed. So they had to kind of make it a bit smaller so I could get on it, actually. Well, my room didn't have a ceiling. There were lamps. What we had were those, the secret doors. I played everywhere. I played there. I was walking, that was the best part. Like walking on the golden fence. There's my mother, there. So in my room, my mother was much more present. And I had like a lot of, I mean, this is obviously, I had a couch and, you know, more lounging stuff. Yeah. That was great because it gave us a different kind of insight into this home or this place where she spent most of her life.
C'était saisissant. À chaque fois qu'on mettait un pied sur le plateau à Brie, on oubliait complètement en fait où on était.
And it's exactly like it is backstage at Versailles.
Au niveau de la déco, Pierre Kéchéléan et Clovis Veil, ils ont su s'emparer des vrais décors que sont Versailles et retranscrire vraiment ce qu'il y a au texte.
Avec après deux types de pièces ou de décors dans ce qu'on a fabriqué. Des pièces qui étaient assez marquées stylistiquement et qui allaient jouer essentiellement en un seul décor. Donc encore une fois, par exemple, la chambre de la reine ou le bureau du roi sur l'autre plateau. Et des pièces plus neutres qui nous permettaient de faire beaucoup de swing sets, donc des décors en fait, où on peut faire 4 décors en un. Et comme c'est moins marqué, c'est un peu moins gênant d'y faire différentes choses, quoi. Il y a des cloisons qui se bougent et qui s'enlèvent pour retransformer 2-3 pièces en une grande pièce pour avoir un grand salon royal. En termes d'architecture, là-dessus, on était assez contraints, en tout cas dans les grandes directions et dans les grandes lignes, par l'architecture classique de Versailles. Hein. Je veux dire, de toute façon, on devait quand même rester un peu dans ces clous-là.
There was a bunch of rooms that we needed that were regular. The Queen's bedroom, the King's offices. Pierre, the designer, basically based the set on Versailles. It's not, each room is not an exact replica of it, but it's based on it or inspired by it.
They recreated the room of Madame du Barry, and everything is made in Chinese ink. I think it was the only room that was made like that. Like it was her influence. She brought that style. She redecorated a lot of places. She redecorated the Trianon as well. You see that in the show a little bit, like she loves redecorating places.
Take it away. Oh no, put those back. I rather like them.
On n'est pas d'ailleurs totalement certain de ce à quoi ça ressemblait à Versailles à l'époque, puisqu'évidemment, le palais a été refait, repris un certain nombre de fois depuis. A priori, c'était assez blanc et or, effectivement. Et c'était d'ailleurs un de nos problèmes au début, parce qu'on n'avait pas très envie de partir uniquement là-dessus. Et en même temps, ça fait vraiment partie un peu des marques de fabrique de Versailles. Et c'est aussi pour ça qu'on est parti vers des fonds très matiérés, très marqués, les craquelures, des patines assez appuyées aussi.
Ils ont apporté, par exemple, des textures au mur pour qu'on casse les aspects studio, avec cette peinture un peu craquelée qui donne beaucoup de densité. C'est 2 couches de peinture qui ont des temps de séchage différents et qui donc, vu qu'ils ont des temps de séchage différents, se met à craqueler. Donc c'est pas du tout uniforme et c'est ça qui est génial. Par contre, on peut pas savoir comment elle va craqueler.
On a tous une image des pièces un peu iconiques de Versailles. On voit les grands espaces, les grands salons marbrés, des pièces avec des hauteurs sous plafond pas possibles. Mais il y a aussi toute une partie de petits appartements, beaucoup plus intimes, qui ont été construits sous Louis XV.
Follow me. This way.
Where are you taking them?
To my private apartment.
Et on arrive dans les entrailles du château qui sont presque comme à taille humaine. Presque comme nos appartements, on va dire. Avec des couloirs qui sont véritablement de la même taille que nos couloirs à nous, avec des plafonds qui sont beaucoup plus bas.
Sous le règne de Louis XV, il y a eu toute une série de petits appartements qui ont été construits juste derrière les grands. La famille royale, commençant à mal supporter les pièces énormes, le décorum écrasant, et besoin de pièces plus chauffables, d'une part, et donc à dimension plus humaine aussi.
On a reconstitué chambre de Marie-Antoinette et ses appartements privés, justement pour rendre ce contraste à chaque fois entre l'intime et la représentation face aux autres.
Thing is sticking in my back. It's the mattress.
This is an outrage.
On a pris plein de libertés à plein d'endroits, y compris en termes de mobilier, où évidemment on triche avec les époques.
We'll arrange all the furnishings.
Oui, on a pas mal chiné. Quasiment tout le studio, c'est de la Chine. Hein.
In Versailles, all the bedrooms are all lined up in a certain way. So if this was the room, the bed would be there. There's no window there in Versailles. The light all comes from that side. That's very flat lighting, because the light all comes one way. I didn't want to do that. I'm not making a documentary about Versailles. I want it to look beautiful. So I need a window there. So then you get light coming from both sides. When people are on the bed, you can put light behind them, backlight, which makes people look beautiful and vulnerable and mysterious, all the things that cinema's supposed to do. And the light needed to be magical and it needed to be real. So all the light comes through the windows. There's no lighting inside. It's either what comes through the windows or it's candles. As soon as you make all those decisions, suddenly you're transported back to that time, for real. To actually imagine what the place would have looked like then.
On a à la fois la lumière qui rentre partout et on a des enfilades de pièces qui est très important pour nous pour permettre le mouvement. Donc le mouvement et la lumière sont vraiment les deux éléments qui nous importaient le plus. Et ça, c'est un point de vue très, très intéressant qu'on n'a habituellement pas dans les décors de studio.
Et comme là, c'est complètement circulaire, quel que soit l'endroit où on est dans cette partie-là du décor, ça permet à un personnage qu'en épie un autre, ça fait de la profondeur.
On peut circuler partout, on a vraiment l'impression qu'on est dans un vrai château.
Which way for the king?
You can't just turn up. Even I need permission to see him.
My God, no wonder you haven't produced an heir.
So it makes everything a lot easier to act, because if you really feel that you're at the center of the universe, certainly the center of the French universe, at the time because of the surroundings that you're in and because of the costumes that you're wearing. Really, all you have to do is open your mouth and say the lines, because the rest of the story is told for you. Enjoy.
Today we're shooting the scene where Marie Antoinette is arriving in Versailles, and she's welcomed by the Prime Minister Choiseul and by Mercy, the ambassador.
She arrives to all the faces of all the terrifying courtiers at Versailles, and Louis, who I'm playing, is hiding up in his little room up there, terrified to meet her, watching her through a telescope.
To me, it was absolutely surreal and brilliant to have this first day of production at Versailles. It was very, very surreal, just like for real Marie Antoinette. It must have been overwhelming, so it was overwhelming for me too. And it was definitely, for me, it was the beginning of a journey into a different universe.
I got to watch this incredible moment and this iconic moment of Marie Antoinette's arrival at Versailles from above, and I got to see these silhouettes on the incredible marble courtyard. It was something I will never forget, and a mixture of joy, confusion, and just awe, I think.
It's done from her point of view. So the camera's with her when she's in the carriage looking out. When she nervously steps out, we're with her. When all the eyes are staring at her, we're seeing it the way she sees it. All the scene was shot and composed from her point of view.
So, looking to work the stand. You mean on the balcony? Yeah, okay.
She sees Louis up there, but she doesn't know it's Louis. And the interesting thing is that Louis is not waiting for her the moment she comes out of the carriage.
As a shy 15-year-old boy, he's hiding upstairs in his library and spying on her from a window way up above. I think for Louis, what he feels in this moment is a combination of actually anger, a bit of sorrow, and also this kind of insecure excitement. And he's probably thinking, what am I about to experience for the rest of my life? So.
She feels she's being observed from everywhere, but not really welcomed. She sees this whole palace. She doesn't see the beauty of it. She experiences as something very bizarre.
Elle arrive dans cet univers baroque, étrange pour elle, complètement farfelu, très codifié, très rigide. Et on est avec elle dans ces sensations.
I wanted to portray that scene of how, almost like Alice in Wonderland, she was this tiny miniature figure and these huge horses looming over her and these men in black as she more or less entered her prison. And she would not leave that gilded prison until she was taken to Paris and imprisoned there.
So it's a very, very, very hard moment for her, and she's overwhelmed and lost.
Welcome to Versailles, Dauphine.
What I wanted to do, it was very important for me in our first season, is not to look at her from the wrong end of the telescope. We know how she ended, but she certainly didn't know how she was going to end, and no one could have predicted the French Revolution. So I think we must see her for who she was and how she behaved during that period without feeling that the French Revolution is coming down the road.
Elle nous donne vraiment accès à sa vision de Marie-Antoinette. Quelle femme elle imagine être Marie-Antoinette. Et c'est ça le plus saisissant.
Sa première approche du personnage, c'est je vais être dans la tête de Marie-Antoinette. Je vais l'accompagner, je vais souffler avec elle, je vais respirer avec elle. Voilà.
All of the series is shot with a handheld camera, 2 handheld cameras. That's designed to give everything a level of intimacy and veracity that you don't normally get. So it meant the actors were completely free. They could go wherever they want and the camera could follow them everywhere. So all of the time, the camera's going into a room with people, following them into a room, walking around the room with them. The camera's intimate and mobile. Everything that happened in the series is seen from Marie Antoinette's point of view.
It's really in her head, and the camera follows a little bit of Marie Antoinette's point of view. It's something that Deborah's done quite a bit in the series. They're almost like dreams.
Elle voit ça à travers ses yeux et parfois c'est un peu accentué. Les maquillages sont poussés sur certains personnages.
Normally, you would, think it was like a fairy tale. This princess, this empress coming from Austria, marrying this guy from France and is going to be the queen of France. But no, it was nothing like that.
What is this place? Is this my life now? Trapped, where I can trust no one, not even you.
I was very pleased to read it because, especially episode 1, it really reads like a nightmare.
Deborah wrote a story where Versailles is the most extraordinary, beautiful place you've ever seen. But for Marie Antoinette, it was a prison that was something she wanted to escape from. So once you have that as part of the story, then you want to look at that world in a completely different way. The series starts with her waking up in a room where she can't remember where she is. She feels trapped, she can't remember exactly why she's there, and she doesn't want to be there. What we don't know at the beginning of the episode is where she is and why she feels like that. That's the key, is that everything is shot from her point of view. So then you shoot her running down the Hall of Mirrors in a slightly hallucinogenic way, with the camera really close to her and running handheld in slow motion. So she runs away to one of the most beautiful places in the world, probably, the Hall of Mirrors, and is dragged kicking and screaming by some guards back to it. Now we don't know why that is. So it was very clear to us that if you see that as a dream, it means it didn't really happen. It did happen. We've just played with the story structure and we've played with time. So we're showing you something that you haven't seen yet. You see a story at the beginning of episode 1 and you don't quite know what it means. So it seems like it might be a dream. It turns out not to be a dream, because the truth is even more scary than any dream could ever be.
Just do your duty, French. You won't let me down.
Il y a aussi tout le travail sur la voix off, parce que c'est ponctué cette première saison d'une correspondance avec sa mère, Marie-Thérèse. Donc il y a cette voix off qui est un peu entêtante et qui parfois résonne en Marie-Antoinette.
Never forget that you are an Austrian archduchess.
The story starts with Marie Antoinette being forced to do something by her mother.
Antoinette! Think of your duty to me, Antoinette. Your duty to Austria.
Marie Antoinette came from a matriarchy, so her mother was an extremely strong ruler. She was meant to co-rule first with her husband and second with Joseph, her son, after her husband died. But Marie-Thérèse, as empress, wouldn't have anyone standing in her way.
When do I get to make a decision around here?
Not until I'm dead.
So she ruled as an all-powerful empress, and her influence was felt by all her children. All her children had to go off and perform their duty in this political agenda.
You know what Ma would say? Failure is not an option. Heirs and word domination are what we Habsburgs do.
In the first season, she arrives as a political pawn in alliance between the Habsburgs and the French, and her marriage will seal that alliance.
The fate of millions of people rests on your slim shoulders, Antoinette.
To sleep with Louis, the boy, and have an heir, that's the deal. And if she doesn't do that, then the deal's going to be blown apart.
So that voice, in terms of pleasing her mother, that's important. But at the same time, that voice is haunting her.
Habsburgs never take no for an answer.
One time her mother's her mum and looking after her, but at the same time, her mum's a bit like her jailer. So that voice is both inspiring her and haunting her and trapping her. And I think that was Deborah's idea in the script, that she always had that sense of how to keep that relationship alive, how to keep that sense that your mum can be your inspiration, but also sometimes your living nightmare.
I fear I may not live to see the event that will seal our alliance.
Give me a break, Ma. Can't you see? We're trying.
Here you are. Welcome.
I think the relationship between Marie Antoinette and the old king, Louis XV, was itself a complicated one.
Oh, nonsense. There's no need to stand on ceremony here.
He was there when she arrived at Versailles. He was hugging her, he was being physical for her, and all these, like affection she wasn't receiving from her husband, but from the king.
I think she loved and worshipped him, but he had a reputation for being a seducer of young women.
Be careful, child. Papa Roy has a penchant for virgins.
Ooh. Louis XV was a notorious womanizer. And Madame du Barry, who is the latest in a very long line of mistresses.
You old fool.
You are naughty, but magnificent woman.
He had a great fear of getting sexually transmitted diseases, so he concentrated most of his wantonness, his lust, on young girls.
Mum prefers hot chocolate.
Oh? Just you wait till she's tried my coffee.
So Marie Antoinette, at the age of 14, going on 15, would not, I don't think he would have found that a problem.
That's the holiday episode, which Marie Antoinette very loved, and I did too.
In the script, it was a kind of English fair.
The way we did it is not really an English tradition. There was a piñata, and that's not English at all.
Avec des miroirs flottants dans les arbres.
We rehearsed dance, all of us. That was before we started filming, and that was fun.
We are dancing English country dances, like folk dances from the countryside, peasants' dances.
And we had this incredibly enormous burning wicker man.
A celebration of all things English.
Pete est venu avec cette envie de Wicker Man, donc cette espèce de grande statue, un peu de briques et de broc et de branchages qu'on a fabriqué et qui brûle à la fin.
It seemed symbolic. It's what would have happened in the countryside, and it gave us something emotional at the same time. So that, on the brink of the world being on fire, I can either win everything now or lose everything now. So that was the idea for the fair. And the Burning Man, it came out of that.
5, 6, 7, 8.
There's this moment where the king, Louis XV, places his hand on my lap, and the hand kind of wanders up.
He's already come on to her at that point of the story and made it perfectly clear in more ways than one that he finds her attractive.
What do you do when the king does that? You can't slap him in front of everybody. She just lets it happen because she can't do anything about it.
And that is the moment when she understands that the king has become a real danger for her.
I think that he thinks too carefully about doing, is shocked by it, and then does not feel safe in his company. because she sees him as a predator.
So it's about brutality. It's about toxic masculinity. It's about a man that has forced a woman to do something against her will, and then on top of that, wants to show her that he can have sex with her whenever he wants because he's the king. It's a turning point for Marie Antoinette in terms of her relationship with him. At that point in the story, Marie Antoinette and Madame de Barry have fallen out, and Marie Antoinette has publicly shown disrespect. The king is really pissed off with that. He's given an ultimatum to her.
She will only hear at the end of this dance.
She thinks she has to acknowledge Madame du Barry or like pay her respect by curtsying, but not publicly. But then exactly the opposite happens. So they're dancing and then everybody kind of vanishes and it's just suddenly Madame du Barry and her.
It was already written in the script that there would be like a Western standoff between Madame du Barry and Marie Antoinette.
I mean, it looks like we could be like, but we're not.
Because in Versailles, people didn't fight with guns. They fought with words and codes.
It was definitely Sergio Leone. That's the inspiration for that. It was a standoff. So we shot it on a big wide and a big close-up.
So there was a great amount of historical military action going on at the time, that if she does not actually pay attention to him and obey him, then he may well go back on his word in terms of the fact that he is meant to be or France is meant to be an ally of Austria at this point.
There will be consequences for Austria.
In this particular scene, Madame du Barry loses power totally. I think this is the second time she's humiliated in public by Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, that was a relationship with fireworks, and I didn't have to make up much about that. Madame du Barry was the maîtresse en titre to Louis XV, and as far as she was concerned, she was the Queen of Versailles, hated by the Parisians and France generally because of her background.
C'était une femme très élégante. C'était elle l'icône de mode avant que Marie-Antoinette prenne sa place. C'était elle qu'on copiait.
On était dans quelque chose de beaucoup plus démonstratif, forcément, parce qu'elle est dans une position qu'elle a à défendre tous les jours. Donc elle est dans la dépense excessive, dans la couleur flamboyante.
Elle avait une palette colorée assez forte, dans des rouilles, des orangés. Elle a beaucoup de bijoux. Une de nos références visuelles, c'était Sophia Loren dans certains de ses films.
Madame du Barry and Louis XV are very much in love. They have quite an extravagant relationship.
I thought I was going to lose you.
Me? Or all of this?
He had an affair with her for about 30 years, and landing on Madame du Barry towards the end of his life.
Perhaps there is a way I can protect you, my love.
Madame du Barry's place is very fragile. Being the favorite of the king, she is replaceable.
So I think when Marie Antoinette turned up, this was a problem for Madame du Barry because here was the future Queen of France arriving.
Let's keep her in our sights, Provence.
There's something to understand as well. Marie Antoinette was placed there by Choiseul, Prime Minister, and Madame du Barry was placed by Duc de Richelieu. And Duc de Richelieu and Choiseul are two different teams. They're big rivals. So even before knowing each other, Marie Antoinette and du Barry will not get along because they don't belong to the same clan.
Ready for your lesson?
At first, I think Madame du Barry is unsure where to stand with Marie Antoinette. She tries to befriend her, to get on her side.
I can teach you the art of seduction.
Teach me. Please, I must do my duty. Madame du Barry is one of the few friendly persons in Versailles, and she offers her help to Marie Antoinette to fulfill her duty to her husband.
Everything Madame du Barry will do is motivated by her own reasons. And I think before being a total bitch with Marie Antoinette, she tries to teach her how things are done in Versailles.
Madame have been plotting to replace me since the day I arrived. You're either in their camp or mine.
This time and Versailles, I mean, particularly Versailles, was really cruel to women. This is also what Madame du Barry is trying to teach Marie Antoinette at the beginning, is like, be careful of every move you make. So much pressure on Marie Antoinette, but so much pressure on every woman in Versailles in different ways.
I'm busy.
And very quickly, the relationship is degrading, and Marie Antoinette chooses the opposite side.
Have Madame been filling your head with nonsense about me?
The moment Marie Antoinette finds out about Madame du Barry's past, she feels betrayed.
You should have told me!
Why didn't you? My past is of no interest to me.
And this is where you see Marie Antoinette's character coming through. Very strong and determined, age 14 and a half, when she chose not to speak to Madame du Barry after they fell out.
And she can't imagine to continue her friendship with her. She just can't understand why a soon-to-be Queen of France should hang out with a former prostitute.
She felt that she'd been misled by the court and misled by Madame du Barry.
I'm an Austrian Archduchess. I'm the Dauphine of France. Who are you?
And then Madame du Barry will find help from the king, and then it becomes more serious.
Until she publicly acknowledges me in front of your family, you will be spending your nights alone.
As we know, Marie Antoinette is very stubborn.
She has declared war on me, Mercy. I shan't be the one to surrender.
And that her mother forced her to apologize, but it took her a year to do it.
But, you know, they never resumed their friendship again.
Congratulations. A battle well fought.
She's an incredibly strong woman, a model of resilience to climb the social ladder like that and stay in her position for quite a long time.
I think we have more in common than you realize.
We live in a society where being too feminine, too sensual, too sexual can be a danger.
We're two women trying to survive in this vicious world.
And here I had to be pretty and sexy and strong at the same time. I think this character taught me a lot.
Good luck.
I'm a big fan of her now.
L'aspect formidable qu'offre une série, un travail sur une série, plus que le travail sur un unitaire, c'est la durée du temps sur lequel l'histoire se développe. Donc forcément, il y a des évolutions dans le costume qu'on est obligé d'aborder et qu'on a le plaisir d'aborder. Là, il y a en plus la dimension de l'évolution et de la variété. C'est extraordinaire, il n'y a rien d'autre qui offre la possibilité d'essayer et d'essayer encore et d'expérimenter des nouvelles manières d'aborder un vêtement.
C'est magnifique, c'est la robe de Marie-Antoinette.
On a eu un parti pris par rapport à la trajectoire de Marie-Antoinette et par rapport à la façon dont on allait essayer de le raconter par les costumes.
Quand Marie-Antoinette arrive à la cour, on est encore vraiment dans la rigidité installée par Louis XIV.
Curtsy.
The French were caught up by protocol and etiquette. They were strangled by it.
You must display French manners.
Ça sent la monarchie absolue, ça sent la contrainte en fait. Et le côté, c'est comme ça.
The robe à la française.
Une de nos inspirations pour le début, c'était la cage. On a cette scène où elle met sa robe de mariée. avec ce panier cage qu'on a... On s'est inspiré d'un panier d'époque, on a été beaucoup plus modeste en taille parce que les vraies robes d'apparat de cette époque étaient absolument délirantes. Enfin, pouvaient faire plus d'1 mètre de large de chaque côté, enfin, c'était très imposant. Et puis le corset, le corps à baleine. Et corset qui, ça on le lit aussi, Marie-Antoinette s'est beaucoup révoltée contre ce qu'on appelait le grand corps, qui était la tenue qu'on mettait dans les grandes occasions à Versailles, le grand habit, et qui était un corps piqué très très raide, très long, qui prenait tout le buste comme ça, et qui était très 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 contraignant. Toutes les comédiennes ont quand même des corsets, parce que ça donne une structure au costume qu'on ne peut pas imiter par autre chose. Et ça donne une posture aussi qui est, je pense, intéressante.
I had to find, you know, a new way to live, of existing, you know, understanding when can I eat, how do I go to the bathroom. I need people to dress me and to undress me. If you feel uncomfortable, if you feel like in a cage, of course all that helped, and, you know, it gave me a real, like, princess vibe.
When is this going to end?
The Countess de Chavigny. Mourning lasts for a year after the late king's death.
A year?
Toute cette contrainte physique, c'était une violence faite à la femme qui a duré des siècles quand même, mais là, elle était bien en place. Et la première chose qu'elle va faire, c'est physiquement essayer de briser cette cage qui était le protocole et toutes ces choses complètement brimantes.
Court mourning is officially over.
By whose order?
Mine.
Et c'est une enfant rebelle qui arrive et va s'opposer à toutes les interdictions. Casser les codes, c'est vraiment son motto, c'est casser les codes. Toute la première saison, sa mère lui envoie lettre après lettre après lettre pour lui dire « Mais non, il ne faut pas être comme ça, il faut se rentrer dans le rang. »
Now tidy your hair, fix your face, and fight back.
Marie-Antoinette, who had as strong a character as the Empress, inevitably clashed with her because she wanted to do things her own way and her mother wanted to do things her way. So inevitably there was going to be a clash between a rebellious teenager and an overbearing mother. And we will see her character drive through this like a coach and horses, and she will forge her own path at that court.
Elle se personnalise, je dirais. Elle s'affirme avec le temps. Donc c'est ce qu'on essaye de montrer doucement dans la coiffure, dans les couleurs, dans les formes des robes.
À partir de l'épisode 5, on est passé dans une silhouette robe à l'anglaise. Donc la robe à l'anglaise, c'est une robe plus légère, qui marque beaucoup plus la taille derrière, qui fait une silhouette plus enlevée.
Les décolletés changent. Je pense que les couleurs se densifient avec le temps. Elle commence avec des bleus très clairs de son enfance, et puis petit à petit, elle va prendre de l'assurance et avoir d'autres couleurs. On la voit une seule fois en noir, parce que c'est la mort de Louis XV, et ça change beaucoup tout de suite. Ça, c'est clair que ça change énormément son apparence.
What happens to her is unescapably cruel sometimes, but she never gives up. This woman never stops. It's like, however little her husband wants to talk to her, she doesn't sit in a corner and cry. When she's down, she gets up. And that's what I loved about her.
Son combat, c'était de s'émanciper et c'était aussi de pouvoir avoir une vie privée, une vie intime, parce que normalement, elle devait absolument vivre devant la cour, devant les courtisans, etc. Elle n'avait pas le droit d'avoir une vie privée quelque part.
Elle ne va avoir de cesse que d'imposer son propre style, d'imposer sa manière de vivre.
No one is going to tell me who I can or can't be friends with.
Oui, ça raconte comment elle va essayer de se créer un cercle d'amis, des gens qui vont être rassurants pour elle. Et c'est pour ça aussi qu'elle va partir au Petit Trianon, parce que c'est un univers qui est un peu plus rassurant, qui est plus petit, qui est loin de toute cette étiquette et de tout ce qui a façonné Louis XIV.
Aujourd'hui, on est dans le château de Champs-sur-Marne, qui est un très bel exemple des châteaux de cette époque-là. Et on est censé être dans un salon de musique au Trianon.
It was the first party that Marie-Antoinette is throwing in her new home, the Petit Trianon. So she's organized a concert and she's invited people.
May I introduce you to the Chevalier Saint-Jean?
It's the place where she heals and where she understands that Versailles is a prison to her and that it's not a place where she wants to be. So the Petit Trianon is like freedom for her and a place where she can leave behind protocol.
Welcome to the Petit Trianon!
And I totally understand that woman, that she was seeking a place where she could just be herself and a human. The moment she sees Yolande, the Polignac, at a party, she's just so inspired and fascinated because this is a moment where Marie Antoinette feels so unfree in her life and she just became queen, but she's confronted with so many limits again. So when she sees Yolande de Polignac, she sees her and she wants to be like her. And obviously she's had Rose Bertin make her a new dress, which was from Dior and which was stunning.
Play something else! Move! Move! Come on, you too, you too, you too.
Alors aujourd'hui, ce que porte Marie-Antoinette est une tenue plus que particulière parce qu'elle a été traitée d'une manière un peu différente par la maison Dior.
It's Dior Day!
Qui a fait 2 pièces pour cette série, qui chacune étaient des pièces justement de situations très particulières. Pour qu'il y ait une vraie distinction entre le travail qu'on a fait relatif à l'histoire et le travail que Dior fait relatif à l'histoire, mais avec une vision haute couture contemporaine. Donc on a travaillé avec eux sur la validation des maquettes, sur les choix, tout en les laissant faire du Dior. C'était ça le jeu, et ça fonctionne pour ça, à mon sens, parce qu'elles ont ce côté robe de bal ou robe de fête.
Ils ont créé la robe pour la première visite du dauphin et de la dauphine à Paris, la première visite officielle, où vraiment il fallait qu'elle ce soit un coup d'éclat.
So there's a shot that starts on a drawing at the bottom of the steps, it flies up the steps and reveals her as she comes to the top. It's a spectacular shot, not just because it's a spectacular shot, it's a spectacular shot because it shows you what she's feeling. She literally feels on top of the world. She literally feels she's ready to conquer the world, and the dress, it shows you that.
So she decided to become a fashion icon.
Marie-Antoinette, c'était vraiment une icône de mode. On copiait tout ce qu'elle faisait, elle avait beaucoup d'idées.
C'est pas que dans les costumes, c'est toute une tendance, le mobilier, les décors.
C'est totalement l'abandon du baroque, de la lourdeur, de tout ça. Ça devient très stylisé, très épuré, vraiment joli. Et ça dit des choses quand même sur une sensation générale.
Mais c'est vrai que si on regarde bien l'histoire, son rôle le plus important, c'est en tant que mécène. C'est là où elle a énormément contribué pour la France et les arts. C'est que là, elle a contribué à financer énormément de créateurs, à faire venir des nouveaux créateurs. Et c'est là où elle a pu aussi imposer un nouveau style. Parce qu'elle leur a donné de l'opportunité de créer pour elle.
Rose Bertin really is responsible for creating the image which we now hold of the Queen in her portraits. She was the most extraordinary designer of her time, and she will always be remembered via Marie Antoinette and the portraits that we know so well.
You do have a flair for design.
Rose Bertin a compris le potentiel iconique de Marie-Antoinette très vite. C'était une vraie créatrice, elle avait plein d'idées, tout ça, mais je pense que c'était surtout une très très bonne femme d'affaires et elle a vu tout le potentiel qu'il pouvait y avoir chez cette nouvelle reine.
Et Marie-Antoinette croit tellement dans ses goûts et dans ses choix qu'elle est capable de l'imposer et qu'elle est capable de créer.
She wanted to create something extraordinary. She was a real queen. I mean, even if she was unpopular at some point, she shined, she caused change, she wanted to lead, and she wasn't only like a little bit charismatic, she was fascinating. She had this addiction of life, addiction to life, this lust for life.
Versailles will dazzle for a new age.
The age of Marie Antoinette.
She was is cynic. I mean, she posed fundamental questions about the court and she changed the court.
C'est la première à vouloir imposer sa liberté. Et dans ces univers qui sont extrêmement protocolaires, c'est vraiment fascinant de la suivre étape par étape et de voir à quel point elle a réussi à tout foutre par terre.
Toute sa vie, elle va essayer de détruire Versailles, c'est-à-dire de détruire le Versailles de Louis XIV.
Ladies are not permitted to run at Versailles.
En fait, Marie-Antoinette, elle déconstruit le paternalisme. Et ça va revenir après, hein, ça va se réimposer à nouveau, mais c'est vraiment sa tentative, hein, elle déconstruit le paternalisme.
So today we're shooting the scene which is the wedding of Marie-Antoinette and Louis XVI.
There's huge pressure on Louis and Marie-Antoinette because Louis is like panicked, doesn't know what to do with her, very intimidated.
And it's quite impressive because they leave the light look. Well, now they turn the light off, but in the series you'll see how impressive the lighting has been.
For me, their relationship is the most important element of this series and is a very powerful portrayal of marriage because they went from being two young people who couldn't speak to one another to being each other's greatest allies.
Ça raconte comment elle va trouver une connexion avec Louis XVI, donc qu'elle ne connaissait pas. Et c'est vrai que le début a été un peu compliqué.
When are you going to be my husband?
Ultimately, Louis XVI is her friend, but to begin with, he is her first enemy.
I feel nothing.
Marie Antoinette is quickly very disappointed by her husband, Louis. He was very shy and wouldn't speak to her for almost three episodes.
What surprised me about Louis is the transformation he goes through. So when we first meet Louis, he is a child still, really.
Louis lives in a world of his own.
Louis famously was a big nature lover. He loves his horses and loves hunting. He's very, very quiet and he's very fearful.
Dans les situations non officielles, il était comme il aurait aimé être peut-être en jogging aujourd'hui, le plus à l'aise possible et le plus adéquat par rapport aux activités qu'il aimait pratiquer.
On le voit dans sa forge, on le voit en train de bricoler, voilà, avec toujours des gilets assez raffinés, mais pas toujours brodés, dans des brins, dans des grilles.
Il y a cette partie-là qu'on a essayé de montrer aussi, ce côté plus rustique, plus confortable par rapport à l'étiquette et au protocole. Il commence à être obligé d'être présentable et présenté comme tel à partir du moment où il devient roi.
Would it be too much for you to admit that father was wrong about me?
You know he was right, brother.
He was never really supposed to be king. His older brother was supposed to be king. Comte de Provence, who is my brother, he is everything that Louis should be. He is the better-looking brother. He is the stronger brother. He speaks, Louis does not. He's everything that a good king would be. And he really wants to be the king as well. He's jealous of Louis' position.
You know, I shan't waste a moment delivering the heir. Brother.
In reality, it would probably be much better for everyone if they just switched, but that's not how history happens, so he's in a situation where he is not ready for anything.
I'm not ready to be a father.
Well, I think this is where you see the shift from a young boy and a young girl not wanting to have much to do with one another and Louis refusing to do his duty, which he was required to do, which was to consummate his marriage, because he, more than anyone at Versailles, resented being married off. He was only 15 and a half and he didn't want to get married. And in his own way, he was just as much of a rebel as she was.
You know, their marriage kicks off very, very, very slowly.
Can't hold out forever.
Can't he? It's been 4 months.
The big issue of the first 7, 8 years of their relationship is their sexual relations, which were non-existent.
When are you going to unbutton your breeches and screw your wife?
There's a lot of theories about this and about why they didn't have sex for the first 8 years of their marriage. Some people think it was medical issues. Some people think it was just no attraction.
There is nothing wrong with my grandson.
After doing the research and after thinking about it a lot, I think it's a 15-year-old boy who's terrified.
Sex in their case was nothing fun. It was duty. It was duty. It was connected with so much tension and pressure, so of course they ran away from it.
He has a room full of people when they get married who are watching. It's normal that they don't want to have sex. I think he associates sex with, you know, terror, really.
You know, nobody told them about being intimate with each other. They didn't know anything about sex.
Is that right?
No. I don't think so. Both of them, they did get friends at some point, but it was very, very difficult for them to establish a normal, healthy marriage.
I think she is not suited to life at Versailles. Louis is this character born in a society where men will just get what they want, and especially a king. He's been raised to have the idea that whatever he wants goes, and a wife is there to support him. Deborah shows this side of Louis that is completely misunderstanding of women. He does not understand the importance they play, the intelligence and vibrance that Marie Antoinette brings to this court, and how she is the one who is changing it from the inside for the better.
Pour Marie-Antoinette, c'est un peu particulier parce que sa mère était très amoureuse de son mari. Donc elle avait aussi une vision du couple un peu différente, je pense.
Louis will guide you, like your father guided me. Papa was gentle, but firm.
Ma! Stop. They have, you know, grown a little bit closer.
I think at the very beginning, it's really about physical touch. So 3 actually, where she's learning to ride, and Louis comes along and adjusts her seat. And it's this tiny little moment, but this bolt of electricity flies through them. It's the first moment they have proper touch that they are in control of. They haven't been forced together for their wedding. They haven't been, you know, it's them, and it's these 2 people that have a moment together.
Amen.
The moment the king dies, she feels sad. She knows how much Louis XV meant to her husband, Louis XVI, but she's also terrified because it means that she will be Queen of France. But luckily, she can enter this new chapter of her life with a sense of togetherness with her husband, Louis.
I can't do this.
We will do it together.
In episode 6, Marie Antoinette's brother Joseph comes along and gives us a kind of marriage counseling session.
A prostitute.
Why not?
The husband does not stray if he loves his wife. And suddenly he admits that he truly does love his wife, and I think she doesn't really realize that because he hasn't expressed it.
So you do love me?
But then throughout the series, there's lots of ups and downs in this season between them.
It takes them 7 years to create an heir.
May I visit you this evening, madam?
And by the end, although their marriage isn't consummated, he accepts that she is his friend and that they must forge an alliance together to get through it because it's just too much for both of them. And that's when they cement their friendship.
And I think helps him find himself. He becomes this intellectual, sharp, quick, and strong character by the end when he's the king.
She wouldn't leave him, and she was always there for him right until the end. She could have escaped, but she chose not to.
Today, this morning, we filmed one of the last scenes of episode 8, where Marie Antoinette finds out that she lost her mother.
She is devastated. She had reached the conclusion that her mother had been a bad mother by forcing her to leave the Hofburg at the age of 14 and a half. Now she has a daughter. She understands that she should never have done that. So she'd reached a point where she felt deep anger and hostility towards her mother. And that was the point where her mother died. She suffered greatly from the death of her mother, and she suffered by the loss because her mother was a steadying influence over her.
Her mother's the person that's the central figure in her life, the central figure that she trusts. She desperately wants to be a good daughter.
And also, I guess Marie Antoinette is, to some extent, also asking herself what role she played in her mother's death.
She would have felt great guilt that her mother had died before she'd had a chance to reconcile her feelings towards her.
Elle qui n'a plus donc le poids de sa mère, c'est un nouveau chapitre dans sa vie.
By the end of the season, Marie Antoinette has firmly established her identity and how she wants to live and rule herself in Versailles.
If all monarchies were governed by the same principles which are in your hearts, there would be no need to form republics.
Elle devient vraiment la reine de France, aimée de toute la France. C'est assez amusant de penser que rien que 10 ans plus tard, ça va se retourner complètement.
Ostrich bitch!
I wouldn't say that Marie Antoinette is a winner at the end of the season. She's lost her best friend, Chartres. She lost her mother. She's lost her true love, Fersen. At the end of the season, maybe that she found a role in her life as a woman, as a wife, as a queen, as a mother, as an icon, and as a human being with needs.
So this first season for me is really about each character finding their place and finding their role.
The king is dead. Long live the king.
And realizing that some people might help them to get there, some people might not help them.
The moment she has achieved that, also the moment she realizes again that she's stuck in a place where she is surrounded by a family that doesn't love her and that is working against her.
I think the French Revolution begins in the French royal family, and it spills onto the streets when the propaganda machine gets going and is very cruel and hostile to both Marie Antoinette and Louis XVI.
Provence is glaring at Louis because he's established himself as the king. He's won a war. He now has 2 children, one of whom is the heir to the throne. He's everything that Provence wants. So he's not happy.
Chartres, she sees that he was a different person than she thought he was. At some point, he gets very obsessed with her and he, wants to possess her. So I think she's scared of him because he has a very different perception of reality.
We are going to be doing it in 3 seasons. Season 2 will take us from 1780, and in 1781 she produces the Dauphin.
King of France! Can you imagine?
And it will take us to 1787 when Louis hands power to Marie Antoinette to rule France.
Et ensuite, ça va être la révolution, son emprisonnement, son procès, etc., jusqu'à son exécution.
La montée, la descente et ensuite la tragédie, quoi.